Hello and happy 2022. Happy New Year and Happy New You. Welcome to another episode of Healing Art After Hours, where I upload real-time videos of live Zoom creative workshops from my Healing Art Happy Hour meetups. I'm Shauna Robeson with Creating Space Coastal, and in today's video I will be sharing some insights on why creative visualization and creating a vision board can be such powerful tools in manifesting your desires. Even if you don't believe in things like magnetism or mysticism, or even if you're not religious, these tips and tools can help you realize things that in your life maybe you didn't expect to happen. I apologize for maybe some of the editing of this video. I didn't start my recording right away, so I'm actually recording the beginning and then I'll be transitioning to the pre-recorded class. So it's a little bit different than usual, so bear with me as I deal with technological challenges. Anyway, let's get started. So the first thing I want to do as we approach the new year, it's a great time to reflect on the previous year, and then we want to transition into the new year, new goals, new ideas, new outlooks, and things like that. So I created, well, I didn't create it. Other people have used this, but I didn't hear it. So I thought I created it: gratitude, latitude, and attitude. So I'm going to talk about how those words can maybe prompt you in thinking about and reflecting on last year, transitioning to the new year, and coming at this new year with a good attitude, good positive attitude. So gratitude, I think, we understand what that is, and that's a great way to look back at the last year. I know that 2021 has been very challenging for many people. We've all experienced, the same challenges in that we've been dealing with COVID still. So there's that. But no matter what the situation or circumstances or events that happen, we can always find something to be grateful. So gratitude is a great way to look back at a previous year and find some nuggets of wisdom, maybe some things that we've learned. I've created a list here of some questions to just prompt your thinking about what you might be grateful for in the last year. And gratitude is a great way to keep our energy positive. Obviously, we have to deal with challenges as well, but when we can move forward with gratitude, since we are in the new year or transitioning to the new year, that's a great way to start with a positive attitude and just know that we have learned some things from our previous year. And one of my favorites on the list, is actually the same thing. We can be appreciative if we make it out of bed in a given day. Sometimes maybe that's all we have in a given day that we can feel like we're grateful for. And then sometimes we're grateful to have a day in bed where we can just, have I heard this term duvet day, and I love that. Sometimes we can be grateful for getting an opportunity. And sometimes if we don't take those opportunities to renew and recharge, our bodies will just pretty much shut down and say, hey, we're taking a duvet day, whether we want it or not. But our bodies, they're really intelligent. So we have to listen to them. And sometimes we don't. And then they say, okay, we're done. We're taking a break. So whatever it is, look back and reflect. Maybe do some journaling. Next month will be journaling. So these are some prompts that you can use if you want to do some journaling about reflection of gratitude for the last year. The next is latitude, and latitude has two primary definitions: the freedom to think or act, behave the way you want. So really giving yourself the latitude to be you. And my mantra for the year is you do you, which is a reminder of, being true to myself. So give yourself some freedom to be you, let go of some of the judgmental thinking. So we can actually use latitude to not only think about the past, but also transition into the future. The second definition is the map coordinates. So where are you? So that's thinking of where are you now, kind of doing a check-in. So as we look at latitude to talk about the past, we can think about things like, what do we regret most from last year? Maybe there are some things that we need to write an apology letter for, either to someone or to ourselves. Maybe we hurt ourselves, so we might have some regrets. And then maybe a forgiveness letter. Give us that latitude of being human, making mistakes, knowing that we're all human and we all do make mistakes. And it's not to say that you want to continue to do it and not beat yourself up. I mean, we do kind of beat ourselves up when we make those mistakes. That beating ourselves up, that's a way of like forcing us to face it and say, hey, we need to not let this happen in the future. So it's not a bad thing that we sort of feel guilty. I mean, that's a feeling that pushes us to grow and change. But also, at some point, you have to let go of that. So write yourself a forgiveness letter and really truly forgive. When we learn to forgive ourselves, it's easier to forgive others, and vice versa. And that brings me to the next suggestion is, how were you hurt by someone else or something last year? Maybe even if it's just dealing with the pandemic, you can write an apology letter to yourself in the voice of whoever that is. And if it's, maybe it's from yourself to yourself, but write it in that voice, and maybe you can gain some empathy or insight about, their perspective, that side of things. And then also write a forgiveness letter to them or it, whatever it is. So it's just a way of processing things and learning to the act of forgiveness, which is healing for ourselves. Holding on to anger and past hurts doesn't ever help us heal. It only harms us, and it doesn't hurt the person that we're angry at, except for that maybe that relationship is broken. But perseverating on that and holding on to that is harmful for our health. So letting go of that is a way to clean the slate. Moving on to the present, that is considering that map coordinate or latitude of location. So where are you at in your life right now? What's going on in your life? How are your systems? Do kind of a life scan. Are your tanks full in all of the areas of your life? I listed out a few areas of your life you can think about. Maybe there's some areas where you need to fill the tank a little bit, or maybe needs a tune-up. So those are some areas that you can focus on in coming into the new year. So do a little bit of a life scan of sorts to really think about where you are at in your journey of life. And then as we transition to the future, it's a reminder to give latitude not only to ourselves and others, but just recognizing that we are all human. And I like to use this term. This is from the old virtual VHS tapes, so that's aging me. Many of you might not even know what that is, but they used to have VHS tapes where you can watch videos on before DVDs and streaming. And they said, be kind, rewind, meaning rewind the tape, because you had to start at a certain point. It wasn't digital. So this for me is be kind, rewind, in that when an event happens or something happens, you experience something, we oftentimes create a story in our minds and we make someone the villain. So let's say we're cut off in traffic and we're angry at that person. We want to say, oh, they're a bad person. We don't know what's going on with them. The reality is we don't know the true story. We don't know. All we know is our experience, and our experience is that they cut us off. Well, maybe we were in their blind sight. Maybe they were rushing a wife to the emergency room, or they're having a baby. We don't know their circumstances. They just got fired. They're a little distracted. And if we can have forgiveness and maybe give them the benefit of the doubt, we're not holding on to that anger, because the rest of the day we might be like, oh, that jerk on the road, and that doesn't help us. So it doesn't mean allow people to treat you badly. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it does mean that if you don't know the story, give people the benefit of the doubt. We always want other people to give us the benefit of the doubt. So just take a moment, instead of jumping to a conclusion or a story about someone else, rewind, be kind, and don't make things worse. If you can't make things better, at least don't make things worse by reacting in a way, especially if you're driving, that makes everybody unsafe. So that's a way of thinking of latitude into the future. So let's move on. what do you see here? Now, this has been going around for a long time, so maybe you've already seen this before, but what do you read in this statement? Do you read "you are nowhere," or do you read "you are now here"? This is an important exercise that helps remind us about perception. All of these are there. All of these letters are there, but maybe some of our filters can adjust how we perceive what we're seeing. And that's going to be really important, and I'll be explaining how that fits in later. But it's really important to recognize that we all come to experience the world with our own filters, our own bias from our past experiences. And that can influence how we approach or see things that are reality, how our reality is. In fact, it changes the reality, right? Both are real, both are there, but one reality has a very different mood than the other. So keep that in mind. And that brings me to how we approach the future when we think about how our attitude is, trying to keep an open mind, trying not to have, these hard-lined expectations that, these biases. We all are guilty of having bias. And if we can recognize that, that helps us to not get caught in to that closed-mindedness, or, allows us to maybe think things differently, think outside the box a little bit of our filters. So replace some of those self-limiting thoughts. Rather than thinking "you are nowhere," think "you are now here." Allow yourself to kind of switch up your thinking. And this doesn't mean don't have negative feelings. Those are going to happen. But if we can approach things in a more positive way, that's going to help us be more successful in problem solving. So if you find yourself, your thoughts going somewhere regularly, like for me, I frequently say I'm technologically cursed, and so I have this belief now because I've replayed that over and over in my head, and it feels like it every time I see something that supports that. I jump on it. So, and that's what our brains do. We have a tendency to want to prove what our belief is. So if we can change our attitude, think about a way to reframe those negative thoughts that aren't helping us. And that's the key thing. If we're having thoughts that are not supportive, are not helping us to move forward, to grow, then maybe we can reframe them into thoughts that are helpful. And the more that we do that, the more that we try to shift that thinking, the easier it will be to do that, and the more likely we'll go into an autopilot of reframing things in a positive, supportive way that will help us rather than hinder us in moving forward. So think about writing down a mantra or something that you want to live by. What is the filter or attitude that you want to have moving forward? For me, I did "you do you" for my 2022, and that's not only a reminder for me to be myself and to be true to myself and my values, but it's also a reminder to give latitude to others for being themselves and not to approach them with a judgmental attitude. Again, it's not to allow people to take advantage of you or treat you badly, but if you can recognize that we all are all different and do what you would want to have them do to you, the golden rule, right? So give them the benefit of the doubt. Recognize that people are different, think differently, act differently, behave differently, and but we are all still inherently deserving of love and respect. And so give yourself and others that, give that latitude, that forgiveness, and recognize that we all have a bad day and we all make mistakes. All right. It turns out I'm just going to go through this whole thing. I think I'm just going to record this because I don't know what I said on the other one, but the second time around might be okay. So I'm just going to go with it and see how far I go. And then maybe it'll just be this video. So stay tuned as I learn technology. All right. Set intentions for what you want for the new year. So now that we've reflected on the previous year, we've taken some time to think about how we want to approach the new year. Now we want to start actually thinking about what do we want? What do we need for our systems to be full? You know, our tanks to be full, our batteries to be charged. We did a life scan to sort of see where we are now, and now it's time to actually take that that information about what maybe we're a little short, or have our tanks low in or whatever, need some charging, need some tune-ups. And now we can start thinking about how we want to move forward and what it is that we want to invite or intentionally bring into our lives. And that's where we get to this creative visualization, which I promise I will get to. And the first step in that, you've probably heard conceive, believe, achieve. This is a concept that's been floating around for a long time. And so I'm going to step through that process and why it's so important. But I'd also like to add one more rhyming word, it rhymes, and that is perceive, believe and perceive. And as I talked about before with that exercise that we did, it's just as important of what we see and what we perceive is reality. The reality is, things just happen, and then we actually can change the meaning of them to be good or bad or indifferent based on how we perceive it. So that's an important piece that I think that, needs to be added in this process. So let's get started on that. All right, the first step, conceive. And that is, mentally form or devise a plan or idea. So if we can't even conceive of an idea, of a possibility, how can we actually work to make it happen? It's really, really hard to do that. And so the first step is conceive, and that's dream up, imagine, come up with, think of, visualize, and that's where we get to creative visualization. Now, to visualize means that in our mind's eye, we can picture some event or thing, right? If you closed your eyes and I said, okay, you don't even have to close your eyes, but if I said, think about a pink balloon, you could probably describe a pink balloon to me. You could probably picture it floating, maybe drifting drifting up and down a little in the wind. You can see maybe a shine on the top of it where the sun hits it. You could probably get a pretty good visual, especially if I break it down for you and tell you how to visualize it, right? So we do that all the time. If we have a child maybe who's driving and now we start seeing them, they didn't show up on time at home, and we start visualizing something happening to them, right? So it happens all the time. We do it many times in the negative way where we visualize things that we don't want to happen. But creative visualization is being more intentional about how we think of things. So let's look a little bit closer at creative visualization. That's where we consciously form vivid images, thoughts or ideas in our mind's eye. And not only that, but we create it in a positive outcome. So if we want something, we actually try to visualize the thing that we want after it successfully happens. So visualize the positive outcome to whatever circumstance or situation you're processing. Picture yourself successfully achieving that goal. So if your goal is to become, let's say, an author, for example, a writer, you can picture yourself sitting there in a book signing at a library. What does it look like when you've achieved that? Okay. You can see yourself writing, but not only just writing, but look at the positive outcome of that. See books on the shelves with your name on it. See bestseller, whatever it is that to you means successful achievement of whatever that goal is. Maybe you have, a knee that's not behaving the way you want it to. Maybe you picture yourself, hiking or jogging or doing things that you want to do with that healed knee. Now, this tool has been used by athletes to actually start conditioning their minds, conditioning the wiring of their brains before they actually go and condition the muscles. And this actually helps to prepare the mind to start making the muscles do what it's supposed to do. So how does that work then if you are wanting to manifest things in your life? How does that bring things to you? Well, when we can see something happening, we are more likely to believe the possibility of it happening. If we can't even picture what it looks like to be a successful author, how are we going to really see ourselves in that role? And how are we going to believe that it's possible? It's really more challenging. And maybe you can, but if you can actually see it, it's going to help the process, the next step, which is believing. So let's get to that. And why is it important to believe? Our minds are programmed to generally want to prove us right. So if we have a preconceived belief or notion about something, we have a tendency to glom on to the data or information that we receive that supports our belief, and we have a tendency to dismiss things that don't support our belief. Now, this is how bias works, right? So if we believe something, if we come into a situation with a belief, we're going to look for things that prove us right. Now, an example of that is if you're on a jury and the person that's on trial looks like some maybe creepy uncle from the past, or maybe a bad neighbor that you had, kind of a neighbor war with, or somebody who hurt you in some way, an ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, something like that. If that person on trial gives you the signal that they're bad, you want to see them as bad, and you're going to automatically start looking for things that prove he's bad. Now, you're going to get both information. You're going to get information that you're going to have the prosecutor and the defense, right? Both giving things that prove he's guilty and things that prove he's innocent. And you're going to have a bias for wanting to believe that he's guilty. So you're going to be looking at the proof that he's guilty, the prosecutor's information, and you're gonna be like, yeah, see? And then the defense, you're gonna be like, oh, that person's lying. That's the tendency of bias. And we all have a tendency, it's part of our wiring, but that's why it's so important to be aware of it and try to be more open-minded and not let those biases push us into making decisions. So when we can keep an open mind and believe something that we want to achieve, we're more likely to actually be open to the information, the data that's going to support that goal. For example, let's say you were born on a deserted island and all you saw in your whole life were trees, palm trees and waves and, some dolphins and things like that. That's all you know. Your reality, your radar only knows of these things, the sky, the sun, the things that you've seen. And suddenly there's a ship on the horizon. Well, when you see the ship on the horizon, you're going to turn that ship into something else. Maybe it's a whale. Maybe it's a reflection of the sun. Maybe it's some, seaweed floating. You're going to try to wrap your head around the information you're getting within what you perceive, what you believe, right? So if you believe in ships because you've experienced them, you're more likely to be seeing that. For example, let's look at a different scenario. If you fell off a boat and swam to a deserted island, but you were familiar with civilization and you knew about boats, if you saw something on the horizon that even resembled at all a boat, you're going to be thinking that's boat because you want to be saved. So you're looking for that thing. You believe in the possibility of that rescue boat. Whereas if you don't believe it, you're going to dismiss it. If you believe it, you're going to see it. And an example of this in our day-to-day life is just creating an awareness of something, okay? Um, if you create a higher awareness of something, you're more likely to see it around you, okay? So when you start to set goals and you know what you are trying to achieve, you're going to see those opportunities. An example of that is when you buy a new car and suddenly everybody on the road has the same color car as you. I mean, that happened for me. It's like I had got this really cool aqua green color, and then suddenly I saw this color everywhere. I never noticed that before. It's not like everybody went out and bought this colored car. It's just that that was now on my radar because I bought this car. I'm aware of it, and now I'm scanning the horizon for this color because it's on my radar. So that's why it's so important to believe and also perceive, because you have to be aware of what is there. And in order to be aware of it, you have to believe in the possibility. And then you start scanning the horizon for the things that are opportunities. You have to see them as opportunities that support your goals. And they were always there. All of these things might already have been in your life, but because you didn't see them as an opportunity, because you didn't believe it was possible, you didn't take the opportunity that was already there. So I hope that makes sense. Whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you are right. And it's that self-fulfilling prophecy idea. If you can believe it's possible, you're going to be looking for those opportunities to make it happen, and you're going to perceive them better as opportunities, and then you can take advantage of those opportunities to get to the next step, which of course is to achieve. Successfully bring about a desired objective. So whether you believe, I think that, prayer, meditation, the idea of laws of attraction and magnetism, and creating that more positive energy and positive vibrations, and thinking about yourself as a magnet, and, bringing things to you, whether you believe that or not, I believe in some of those things and the power of those things and the power of those beliefs. But even if you don't believe that, just believe that once you tune your radar into seeing the things that can support your goals and your desires and get you what you want, and the more real that you make that in your mind and in your space, the more likely you can make it actually happen in your reality. And the next step to creative visualization is to take it from that mental visualization and bring it into the reality, the real world, as a visual, as a physical manifestation of that concept. And that just cements it more in your mind. You're actually now having to go, okay, what does that look like? And really formulating that. So you're really clear about what it looks like and what opportunities might be around you. So it transitions it from concept to reality. And the first step of reality, right? It's a one-dimensional reality. It's not the actual thing yet, but it's the next step in the process. So creating a vision board or creating a vision page or a shelf, creating things that are around you that remind you of your path and what you're trying to manifest in your life, whether it's, love and good vibrations like I have here on my hearth, or health, and again, the vision board, there's lots of different ways to do it, but no matter how you do it, it's really getting your mind to wire itself and see those possibilities and believe those possibilities and perceive the opportunities when they arise. So this is just, a collage. You can just do it in writing. You can use words or images, just through drawings. You don't have to necessarily go through whatever your art form is. You can use, or creative skill level, and maybe it's just really stick figures, it's really, really simple and basic, or maybe you want to do a collage, cut out pictures out of a magazine. This particular vision board was created with a Costco magazine. So you don't have to necessarily, have a subscription to a big magazine. Maybe you can just look through your junk mail. Or maybe you can even print off pictures from the internet. Maybe if you come up with a theme that you want to tune into, you can search those images on Google and then you can print those out, cut those out. So however it is that you want to do it, surround yourself in some way, create some kind of visual representation of what you want to manifest. Now, I like to do themes for the year. Like, for example, this year, my theme is being grounded. Last year, I was really in a transitional phase. So if you maybe if you're doing it for the year, you could start with a theme that might be more helpful than specific things, but then you start to sort of piece together what are the things that support that theme in my life. What do I want to invite into my life that support that? You can also do a specific vision board or page based on one topic. Maybe you want to do one that's all about health and one that's all about personal growth or one that's all about your career. The main thing is you not only want to create it, but you also want to review it regularly. So if you can, if you're going to review a journal page, great. But I like to have it somewhere that's on a wall where I can see it regularly, passively, because I don't always push myself to look in a journal. But sometimes you might want it more private. So you might want it not somewhere where everybody can see. I have it sort of in my bedroom behind my door, so I see it, but no one else really sees it because when my door is open, it's not visible to everybody else. But when I can kind of close my door from my bed, I can see it. So every day I wake up and I can see my vision board, and that helps to remind me of those things. And so I can go, oh yeah, I want more farm to table food in my life. So that reminds me. It gives me cues and keeps reminding me of the goals that I have or the things that I want more of in my life. And then this is just a closer up picture. So last year, you can see my theme, my mantra, you do you, that was the true you, that was there, last year too. And I've been trying to say it regularly. Whenever somebody, doesn't agree with me or, maybe you have differences of opinions, they want to do something a certain way, and I maybe have a different perspective of it. I just, I try to go, you know what, you do you, and try to let it go. And, because I don't know what's best for them. We all know what's best for ourselves. Well, in theory, we know ourselves the best, sometimes we don't always see the things that are best for ourselves, and we have to hear it from friends, but in the end, we all get to make the decisions about ourselves. And so if someone's giving you pushback, they don't want your opinion, you need to let it go and move on and let them be themselves. And likewise, if someone's trying to change you or push you in a direction that doesn't feel comfortable for you, then it's time to you to really honor yourself and you do you, and don't let them try to influence you away from your values and what's being true to yourself. I will be doing a workshop in the future, Life is a Journey, Take the Helm, and it's about really taking charge of your life and being intentional about living. And this is just a little visual that I did, and no, it's not a minion, even though it does kind of look like a minion. I may redo it at some point, but the pieces, I'll just give you a quick review of the pieces. And again, I will be going on a deeper dive to this process in the future, helping you break down each of these steps. But of course, there's the helm, and that's where you are now. Your point A is here, and then the horizon line is like your mission or your purpose. So thinking about ways to figure out what that is for you, because knowing is power. And then the compass is your values, your core values, and that should always guide you in the direction that you go. And then this here, the little voice bubble, is the mantra, and that's that and that can change over time. Right now, my mantra is you do you, but maybe that'll be different in coming years. But it should be supportive of your path, whatever it is. And then there are these little islands. These are the short-term goals. I call it island hopping. So those are the little island hops that we take to move towards our purpose or our mission, our long-term goals. And then these little, what look like minion eyes but are not, those are looking through the binoculars, and that's the vision. That's that creative visualization. What does it look like if I, achieve my purpose? What does that look like? And I don't say that purpose is a final goal because, we never get to the sun, right? There's always a new horizon as we move forward, and that's how life is. There's never really a point B. I mean, we get to the end of our lives, but life is a journey. The whole time that we're living, it's a journey. And so, we're always, wanting to maybe look to the future, but also and making sure that we look there just to kind of guide us in where we're going now, so that we can make sure that we're on the right track and that we're moving in the right direction for living our best life. So anyway, I won't go much further into that, but that's what that's all about. I do have some inspirational reading list, and I have on this, if you purchase the notes, there is a link here. Napoleon Hill talks about this concept that conceive, believe, achieve, and that was in the 1930s. This concept has been around for a long time, and I thought that was an interesting video. I've never read any of his books like Think and Grow Rich or Own Your Own Mind or something like that. He has some interesting books, interesting concept books, but I have not read any of those. But most of these other things I've either read or looked into, and these are some inspirational books that I have on, taking charge of our mind, our creativity, and pushing us to move forward in our lives in a positive way. So you can check that out again if you get those. And then if you do get the notes, this is a link here to those. Or you can also just research Napoleon Hill, and there's a lot of videos out there on that. But I thought that was an interesting considering, that was back in the 30s. And again, I mean, there's a lot of Buddhism philosophy that's way before that. So that talks about concepts of managing that perspective of your mind. So, and that's avoiding the suffering that we create. So just a little bit on that. We all suffer. Life has suffering. Things happen. We're harmed physically, if not emotionally and mentally. And then we can add to that suffering by perseverating on the harm. And that's where that hate and anger and stuff comes in. And that, like I said, that's the poison that sets in. That's our that's our self-created suffering that we can try to let go of. And that's what a lot of the Buddhism philosophies are about, is letting go of that part of the suffering. So anyways, these are some great inspirational readings. If you're interested, you can check those out. And thank you. You can check out my website if you want to purchase the notes or make a donation to help support this meetup. Or you can join the meetup if you want to come to the live presentations at this link here, and my YouTube channel, which is Creating Space Coastal. This is the link for that. And obviously you're here, so you know how to find it. But please like, subscribe, share if you find this content helpful. And thank you so much for joining me. Happy New Year, Happy New You, and happy creative visualizing, happy manifesting for your life. Thank you, everybody. Bye.